2 NFL Millionaire Maker lineup. Last week, we learned almost nothing, so this should be really fun. Essentially, the research that I'm using to build a lineup is going to be from NFL.com, really. People who got targets, people who got opportunities, like different like volume, I guess, is really the best thing. Like last week, Trey McBride had 12 targets as a tight end. So depending on what we come up with the salary here, we're going to go through some of the stats and get something built and hopefully win a bunch of money. With that being said, I'm going to start with my defense. Okay, so defense right now, after last week, the one thing that we learned is the Carolina Panthers are horrendous. Okay. And on Fanduel, defense can earn a bunch of points. I mean, the Cowboys crushed it with 17 points. Chargers had 14 points last week to going up against a horrendous Carolina team. The Vikings absolutely crunched the Giants. So you could go two ways here. You go Washington versus the Giants. I mean, this -3 here. I highly doubt Daniel Jones gets it together. But looking at like more opportunity, I think this is going to be my D for the week. Now, I like to get defense done quickly because it's the cheapest position that you can get going. And from there, we can start looking at what I like to call our stack of the week, right? And this usually comes from over-unders. So I like to I have the score app on my phone, and I just browse through the game totals, right? Like Minnesota, San Francisco, 47, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Detroit Lions, 51, Arizona Cardinals, and the LA Rams, 48, Cincinnati, Kansas City, 49, so on and so forth. So essentially, I like to take a quarterback stack from those games. Now, according to last week, Matty Stafford tore up the Detroit Lions for a ton of yards at 18 points, not so many touchdowns. But Detroit is playing against Tampa Bay, and Baker Mayfield is cheap. And he absolutely torched whoever they played last week. I don't even remember who they played last week. Was it? Why am I drawing a blank here? Hold on. He had 4 touchdowns last week, which is absurd. So, like when you have a matchup and we're trying to get some studs and a lot of volume, we definitely want to look. Say, torched Washington. I mean, Washington could just be terrible, but I mean, Detroit did give up. I think it was the second most passing yards last week, and Cooper Kupp had 14 targets, which is absurd. So, anyways, moving on. With this pick here, we want a run back play, and we want a receiver to stack him with, right? So Mike Evans had the game last week, but I believe Godwin is cheaper. He is. And he had 18 points. And I think he had more targets. Let me look. Game log. So he had 8 targets, 8 catches, and a touchdown. Important to note on FanDuel, you only get half a point for a reception. So just keep that in mind when you're building lineups. I don't really like taking like running backs that are getting a ton of targets on FanDuel. Like as an example, A Chain has been getting like 8, 9, 10 targets. Kind of like taking people who are going to get the volume on the ground. But anyways, I digress. So as a run back, we could go with Sam Laporta, Amon Ra at 9,000. Big deal. We could go with who had the game last week? Was it Jameson Williams? Does he have that kind of performance in him again? 9 targets? I don't actually know. I like going with Jahmyr Gibbs or David Montgomery. The way David Montgomery was running at the end of last week, I think that he's going to be my pick on this one. His volume isn't exactly like my favorite, but he had 17 rush attempts, 90 yards, 1 catch, and a touchdown. I think he is the goal line back, so if they get down low, he's going to punch it in. And so this is my pretty much game stack, right? You can go the other way. You could play Jared Goff and Amon Ra and then run it back with one of the running backs for the Bucks. But this is like my starting point right here. Moving on, I am going to probably run Cooper Kupp every week until he's $10,000 because the Rams don't really have anybody else. I mean, Puka went down. You could maybe take a salary saver from the Rams, but I mean, Cooper Cup, 21 targets, seems like a no-brainer. Now, picking from some of the other high over-under games, we really like the Rams, Arizona. We really like San Francisco, Minnesota, not really my favorite. I think, according to the stats last week, and with our boy going down, Jordan Love, Josh Jacobs could be in line for a monster game. Now, the thing that scares me about this game is his volume. Does he get, like, because of the matchup, are they going to be down and then they're not really running the ball? Like, that's like the thing that scares me the most with Josh Jacobs. In Indianapolis's line is trash. They have huge play potential, but if Green Bay could get up and just pound the rock, I think Josh Jacobs is an absolute smash spot here, and I'll be running him in most of my lineups. Obviously, watch the injury report because he could be ruled out, just like Christian McCaffrey was last week, and then we're up Shit's Creek without a paddle. The volume for Trey McBride, 9 targets. I mean, kind of the trash numbers again, but this is the number I'm looking at in a game that has a pretty high over/under. I like Trey McBride, and his price tag is pretty nice. You can run Isaiah Likely because he might be tight end one for the best team in the league, the Baltimore Ravens. I'm kidding. The best team in the league is obviously the Kansas City Chiefs. Travis Kelce didn't really have a great game. I don't know what Cincinnati team is going to show up, so I'm probably going to fade him. But you can always play Travis Kelce. You could take a shot on Isaiah Likely, but I'm going to ride Trey McBride for now. So that leaves us a flex, and that leaves us another receiver. Now, I want to pick someone from one of the projected high scoring total games, but I'd like to get somebody in here that I think is going to have like a monster game. And Zay Flowers last week had a ton of volume. He had 10 targets, 6 receptions for 37 yards. 10 targets is beautiful. Likely is the only other guy that got any targets. Poor Mark Andrews is playing left tackle the entire game. So we can go here. I think Lamar looks like an absolute stud. I think we could take a shot on somebody cheap like Terry McLaurin. Brian Thomas looked pretty good. He looked like the best rookie receiver. He got a little bit of action. The volume isn't as high as I would like, but you can always go there for a little bit of salary. I think I'm going to look at who was getting the most targets. Keenan Allen had 11. Garrett Wilson had 11. A.J. Brown and CD both were in double digits. So probably going to have to take a higher end receiver and go with a cheaper flex. And we want to take someone from a game that has a high over under. I will not look at Marvin Harrison. He looked slow as molasses last week. Rashee Rice looked pretty good. Again, the numbers here could be skewed because Kansas City played, not Kansas City, the Cincinnati Bengals played the Patriots who don't have a starting quarterback. So Rashee Rice could be a really good option. I probably won't touch Devontae Adams ever. Garrett Wilson, double-digit targets. So you could go on any number of places here. If they are playing zone, Minnesota, Debo. If they're playing man, Ayuk. Just a rule of the gods there. I think I'm going to plug Rashee Rice in and give me 6,900 to work with on my last flex. Seattle is playing New England. Now, this is a game that I think scares me a little because J.K. Dobbins went crazy on 10 attempts. Gus Edwards had 11 attempts. That's a scary thing when you're looking at games that you think are going to be, close or people that are going to get work. I'm going to ride James Conner here because he seems to be getting all the touches, 16 rushes, 4 targets, 20 touches a game. Seems pretty good to me. I think the script of this game is going to be high scoring. It's hard to go Trey McBride and James Conner, so you could take out McBride and let's just throw in Isaiah Likely here, and if you have $800 left, you can go and move other pieces around. But I think this is going to be my entrance to the Millionaire Maker this week, depending on if Josh Jacobs plays. So just running through it, we have our correlation with Chris Godwin and Baker Mayfield. David Montgomery, very touchdown dependent. Josh Jacobs, could absolutely screw us, but the Indianapolis defensive line is terrible. Cooper Kupp's volume is insane. Double-digit targets here, 20 touches here, and the Carolina Panthers could be the worst team in the world. Hopefully, you guys could use this information, maybe make something for yourself, and good luck, and hopefully everybody wins big.